Hey everyone, welcome to Horror Movie Massacre, brought to you by the Horror Syndicate. And tonight's Tuesday, and that means that we're doing another list. This time we're going to be counting down the top 10 horror movies from 1981. Yes, that is honestly one of the biggest years of 1981. I was doing a little bit of searching around, and I have this list on my phone on Google Docs. I know people use different apps for keeping track of what they watched. But I just have a straight list going up and down on Google Docs, and I was trying to figure out, you know, how many movies I've seen, horror movies I've seen from each year of the decade of the 1980s. And while 1981 may not have as many as 1987 or 1988, the two that have the biggest output for horror movies in the 1980s, it has some of the biggest heavy hitters when it comes to horror films from the 1980s. Uh, Sometimes we talk about 1981 as the year of the slasher because there were so many slasher movies: My Bloody Valentine, The Prowler, The Burning, Halloween 2, Friday the 13th Part 2, and a few others. But it's also a year that gave us actually four different werewolf movies. Everybody knows about three of them, with The Howling, Wolfen, and American Werewolf in London. And then Seth, of course, Seth knows, uh, put this on his list. Not make our top 10, Night of the Werewolf. I've never heard of it. So when Seth gets back from, I think he's making some coffee or something like that. Once he gets back from that, we'll ask him, what the fuck is that movie? Because I've never heard of it. Of course he has, because he's working on a list of 200 werewolf movies. Yowza. But I'm coming to you from the balmy St. Louis area. It is about 6 degrees outside, but of course Seth has to outdo me. He said it's -2 where he lives. But it's I am so done with winter. That's about all I can say about. I hate winter so much. It's weird because we go from winter, 1 week of spring to summer, and then we get the same thing. It's like we go from summer, 1 week of fall, winter. It's so stupid living in the Midwest. But Seth lives in the Northeast and he loves the cold, don't you, Seth?
Do not.
I'm
And
tired of it, man. This is probably gonna be the coldest day, so I think well, if we can survive today, we'll be okay. Um, by the way, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. We got a few new subscribers as we march towards 2,000. Let's get us into the higher numbers. Let's get to 10,000 subscribers. It's like 10 or 15 likes on this video. I know it's asking a lot, but I'm in the horror room. There's a sliding glass door right here, and it's cold, and I'm still doing the show. Um, Seth, so what the fuck is this?
it's a Paul Nashi movie.
Is it?
Yeah,
Does it have another title?
it does. I can't recall what it is off the top of my head. Um,
Okay, yeah, because you pulled that out of your ass. I'm like, what?
yeah, it, and really, I can barely remember. Like it, that one kind of like blends in with a couple of the other Nashi films that I've seen. There's a
Hmm.
couple that they stand out from each other, but then there's a couple that are kind of similar.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's a good old Paul Nashi werewolf film.
I just did my top 50 werewolf movies after seeing The Wolf Man, which reminds me tomorrow Seth is going to be talking about The Wolf Man. I may or may not show up. I haven't decided yet. Problem is, it's not the movie. It's I may have double booked myself because I'm gonna see if I can do it Thursday. But I got a dinner with a friend of mine. His name's Nick Touche, and I if you didn't know, I collect action figures like these. Okay, these are McFarlane DC uh, action figures. I got anyway. I'm a part of a group, and these are just the ones that are sitting on my table. Look, the bat from Batman Forever. How about that?
That's cool.
Bruce Wayne can make love to it. Yeah, so I got all these figures, and on New Year's Eve, I'm in a Facebook group. Here's Robin. I'm in a Facebook group. Talks about all these. It's Two Face. This is the Batman Forever line, and I decided I was like, I kind of want to start talking about this stuff more because I really enjoy collecting these action figures. Here's another one I got. I don't know if you've seen. This is not the same kind of figure, but I love Cyborg Superman.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, I was like, yeah, I'd love to start talking about these figures and do maybe like a show like this on my own channel, or start a new channel. And I posted that in the group, and I got 50 some odd messages from people that want to be in. And my buddy Nick, he does GI Joe classified figures, and they're 6 inches. Actually, let me grab. I know you're not interested, Seth, but I'm gonna do it anyway. And I was a big GI Joe fan growing up, and they're like this. One's my favorite, but he collects those, and he's got his ear to the ground on that. I'm like, well, why don't I just do a whole collector page and all that stuff? That's stuff that I really enjoy, and maybe do a podcast or have Nick do a podcast. So we're gonna sit down and talk about him doing that because he's a good guy, good old friend, high school. I mean, he was a year older than me, and he used to say the weirdest shit to me. He had this really, just this really silly voice. He'd be like, "Oh, Ray, you silly goose." Anyway, so I might be meeting with him tomorrow, but we may. I'm trying to get him to go on. I may just push it back another week. I'm just really excited about the possibility of getting these shows going and this stuff going because it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be fun. But anyway, I'll stop playing with toys. These are actually why I haven't been buying horror movies because I've been getting all this stuff. They're about the same price as horror movies. Anyway, um, I have no name for it, so it's not really a plug, but I will be. Evil Dead is good. Anything else? Friday 13th Part 2, The Burning. Yeah, so I think, Seth, let me ask you. I think we talked about this a little bit earlier. Slasher is probably the most popular horror subgenre, don't you think?
Oh, it totally is. I remember a couple years ago, on our Facebook group page, I put up a poll asking like, what's everyone's favorite subgenre of horror? It was slasher, creature feature, and blah blah blah, paranormal, blah blah blah. The vast majority of responses were for slasher.
Yeah. Yeah, I like slashers, don't get me wrong, but they're like I feel like they're also the simplest form of horror movie
Oh, they
in
are.
many ways. And that's not a knock on them because I love them. I mean, you and I had talked hours on slasher movies between Friday the 13th or Scream or any the big franchises for sure. Halloween especially. We love Halloween. And at the same time, we really enjoy some of these other outliers. You just recently got to see The Prowler and The Burning, I think, right?
Mhm.
Oh, all right. Hey, what's up? Glad you're with us. Thanks for
That's
being on the show the other night. That's Jackson.
Jackson. Yeah.
Yeah, really enjoyed having him on the show the other night. Gonna have to have him on again. Dude, 22 years old. He knows so much horror. It kills me. It's like, dude, I love this kid. It reminds me of a young Keith. Remember Keith? Missed that dude. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, again, it's a list between me, Seth, Nate, and Jared, and each of us put in our top 10 list from from 1981, and we had a total of 19 movies that made the list. So like 9 of them didn't make it. I've got 5 here that will probably surprise you. I think people would be mad at this list. I'm just gonna be flat out and say, and we're gonna go over some of these. One of the 5 is this one, the Nashi movie you said, Night of the Werewolf.
Yep.
Is this streaming anywhere?
I feel like it's. I came across it the other night, and I think it it may be one that. Oh, actually, it might be on Tubi. I think it's on Tubi. To be honest with you, I think they have a lot of the Nashi films on Tubi.
No. Yeah. By the way, if you're here, you should already hit that like button and the subscribe button. Just saying. But here are 4 other than that one that are not on our list, and I said it at the get go. 1981 is kind of stacked. So
Sure
one of the
is.
movies, one of the movies that didn't make it was The Funhouse, which I don't know that you saw. Have you seen this one?
I don't think I have seen that one.
It's it didn't make my list, and I think it was only on Nate's list, and that's why it didn't make the overall list. It's okay. Toby Hooper. It's not very memorable. I can barely remember it, honestly. It's from 1981. It's before Poltergeist. I don't know. I didn't care for it all that much, so that's why it's not on my list. Another one that's not on the list that might ruffle some feathers is The Burning, and this is beautiful artwork by Nathan Thomas Milner here. What did you think of The Burning?
I thought it was fun. The massacre on the raft was like the highlight of
Oh
the
yeah,
movie for me. Yeah, I thought it was totally fun, and like I mentioned to you earlier, like because this was a new watch for me. I've heard of this years ago. This and The Prowler have been on my radar for so long, and I have no idea why I never watched them before. But uh, The Burning, I just thought it was crazy that this and Friday 13th Part 2 were only a week apart in release, and yet they had one scene that was so similar in each film. Yeah, but yeah, I enjoyed this one.
which scene are you talking about?
Campfire scene.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, and the idea of Cropsy, I'm surprised there wasn't a sequel somehow. Cropsy is a cool character. The legend is really cool. I think also I should state that Tom Savini chose this over Friday the 13th Part 2, which is fine. But yeah, that's not a bad movie. It just didn't make my top 10. So.
Yeah. I thought it was funny too because I didn't know about anyone involved in the making of this, and then watching the credits, I'm like, oh, story by Harvey Weinstein.
Oh really?
Yeah, he came up with the story, and his brother, I think his brother Bob, co-wrote the script as well.
Let's throw that out then. Probably getting pardoned next week. Another one that I am not thrilled about, and first time watch for you, is The Prowler. And I mean, this is a paint by number slasher movie, and very reminiscent to me of My Bloody Valentine. And I know this is a new one for you, so I definitely want to get your thoughts. And am I wrong in saying it's very similar to My Bloody Valentine?
You know, there was a couple scenes that actually reminded me of My Bloody Valentine, not like directly, but like I don't know, there was something about it that just it kind of reminded me, and like it one of the things I mentioned to you earlier today when we were texting was like the Prowler and the Burning. I did enjoy them. They're good, fun slasher films.
Sure.
The Prowler. I could see why Joseph Zito got the job for Friday 13th, the final chapter.
Yes.
Yeah, but like the Prowler and the Burning are the good, fun slasher films. But I kind of have them like on the same tier as stuff like My Bloody Valentine and Terror Train and New Year's Evil, Slumber Party Massacre, Final Exam. You know, just some of the slasher films that are good, but they're not remarkable. And a lot of those titles I just named like are films that I do like. I like Terror Train more than you do. I believe I like My Bloody Valentine more than you do because I don't think you're a fan of that one, right? I do enjoy them.
I just find them kind of boring, to be honest. And you know, Joseph Zito, you can tell he made this movie and made Friday the 13th Part 4, in my opinion. They're not, like you said, they're anything special really when it comes to slasher movie. And honestly, I don't think very many slashers are that special anyway. But
no, that's the thing. Like, because I think like I can't say so much for the Burning, because the Burning did have some creative kills in there. Again, that raft scene was awesome. But like with the Prowler, it had like good effects, but like the kills were just very basic.
Yeah,
Um,
the shower
and
kill was kind of cool.
yeah, and like the funny thing is, I don't know if maybe it's from all the years of watching slasher films, but I guessed who the killer was early on in the Prowler. Like out of all the okay, so you're thinking of all the characters that would fit the age range of what the character would be now, and
Hmm.
it's like okay, so all the older dudes in the movie are either fat or there's the one skinny guy who's the sheriff who would probably fit more of the build of the Prowler.
Right.
It was kind of an easy guess, but yeah, I mean the Prowler's fine. I think it's a fine slasher film.
I'm kind of surprised we haven't seen a remake of the Prowler yet, as
Mm,
far as I know, because we've gotten My Bloody Valentine. We haven't gotten The Burning either. Maybe they just need to be left alone. Uh,
yeah, well, I mean, you know, the remakes of Prom Night and When a Stranger Calls weren't
no.
excellent, so maybe just
Oof.
leave
Woo,
the classics alone.
that's rough stuff.
Yeah.
And our last, I would call these honorable mentions, is in fact My Bloody Valentine. Again, so my original countdown, I was like, I better put these on here, the Prowler, My Bloody Valentine, because I'm gonna catch some shit if we don't have them in our top 10. But you know what? I decided to say, fuck it, stay true to myself. And I don't think My Bloody Valentine's all that good. It's rather boring. They're paint by number slashers, you know. And then, I mean, the Prowler, look at the marketing is not much different between the two, you know.
Yeah, I
But
mean, I give the edge to My Bloody Valentine. I think My Bloody Valentine made my list. It was my like number 10, I think, on my
yeah, I
list.
think it was 10. Yeah.
Um, I enjoy My Bloody Valentine. It's one of those things where I like the remake better, which is kind of a rare.
Actually, I have the list right here. Yeah, you had it number 10.
Yep.
Yes. But I do think the lists or the movies that we have on our list for this 1981 are actually pretty great.
Mm.
So mine would be The Beyond, Friday the 13th Part 2, A House by the Cemetery, and Howling. Hold
Oh
on.
damn it! I was gonna watch House by the Cemetery. I totally forgot about that one.
That's okay. It wouldn't have made your top 10. It didn't even make my top 10. So I like it enough, but it's the weakest of the Three Gates of Hell movies. But there's something about it that I really like. It's more of a mystery story. You know, it's not like a lot of ton of gore like in City of the Living Dead or The Beyond. But it's pretty good. I like it. Then also I will say Fabio Frizzi's score is very missed. I do like the score for House by the Cemetery, but there's something about it that is like almost sounds like 8-bit video game, like Nintendo video game music in a way. But I like it. It's just not Fabio Frizzi, you know. It's like you got three
Well,
movies in a row with Fabio Frizzi, and then you changed for the last one. Come on,
yeah, the score for oh what the hell was it? The last one I watched there,
the House by the or City of the Living Dead.
City of the Living Dead. The score for that was incredible.
Yeah,
Like that helped. That helped my enthusiasm for the movie, because it just, especially in key scenes, I'm like, oh man, this is great.
yeah. I really like towards the end of the movie when the music is the theme just kind of starts bumping up and you know shit's getting ready to go down with Father Thomas and yeah, I love the score for that movie, even
Yeah,
though there are some slight similarities to Fulci's Zombie, but oh
yeah.
well. Anyway, let's see. On with the countdown, I guess. The top 10 horror movies of 1981. And I think that any viewer who watches this will see why The Prowler, My Bloody Valentine. I know that people love slashers. I know, I get it. But there are some great horror movies that are not slashers in 1981. So, yeah, I was pretty pleased with the way this list turned out. What about you?
Yeah, I was like, when you sent me the final list, I was like, I can get behind this.
Yeah.
I just want to highlight one comment here. I don't think you popped it up, but
I
thank you.
did.
Oh, you did. I didn't
Yeah.
see it when you popped it up. Thank you, man. I appreciate that, and you should definitely write for the Horse Syndicate. We could use more writers for the website.
We could. Yeah, I I agree with Sean there. I mean, yeah, yeah. Did we? Hold on, I don't think we got this one. Did we? Third act was I had more fun with the remake though, honestly. Of My Bloody Valentine.
Me too. It's like one of those rare times where a slasher remake is better than the original.
Yeah,
and I
but
like the original, but like I think the remake is just a lot of fun.
I know that if I post, hey, which is My Bloody Valentine's remake better than the original, or is it as good as the original? People are like, no, that's blasphemy. Blah 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 blah. You know how it goes.
Well, I know, but I'm also notorious for my bad takes, my terrible taste. So
Me too.
you know, evil
But
dies tonight, man.
right. All right, coming in at number 10 on our top 10 horror films from 1981 is The Scanners. I think this was on. I got the list in front of me. I'm gonna look. Sorry for the crinkled paper, but I think this was in everybody's list. Yeah, no, well, that's weird. He wasn't on Nate's list, oddly enough. That's surprising.
That is surprising.
But it's ranked so low because you and Jared had it at 9. I had it at 7. Uh, this movie is fucking weird. But what do we expect from the director, right?
Yeah, it's a good Cronenberg film.
Yeah, I mean, Cronenberg's bread and butter was in that time between like when he made Shivers to The Fly. I'm blanking on what may have come after The Fly, but The Fly is, in my opinion, his masterpiece. Even though The Brood is great, this is great. I'm a fan of Cronenberg. That might be why. I'm not sure if Nate he doesn't like body horror. I know that, but I don't think this is really body horror. But
No, I gotta get. I gotta update this to like Blu-ray or whatever because the DVD I have for Scanners. Last time I tried watching it, it skipped. So,
dude, I think that's all I have is a DVD for Scanners because I don't know.
is there even a Blu-ray for it? There's
I
got to be.
don't
Right?
know. That'd be a good question for Jackson because he's the Mr. Collector right now. But yeah, Scanners is a cool movie. I don't know if it's streaming anywhere. I don't have my phone with me. It's charging in the other room. But yeah, it's been a while since I watched this one. But man, it really made an impact. And Michael Ironside's great in this movie.
Yeah, he is.
There's never a time that I've watched something where I wasn't happy when I saw him pop up on screen. So, but the one thing that I also want to mention is there is like some of these movies have iconic moments, and this one has that iconic moment where the guy's head explodes.
Yeah.
And I think it was the first Wayne's World where they mentioned it when Garth was on screen by himself, and he's like, "Remember that scene in Scanners?" And I'm like, "What is that movie? I need to search this out." So yeah, that's how I ended up seeing it, thanks to Wayne's World.
Yeah.
I keep folding the list up. I need to keep it open. All right. Yeah, I'm a pencil and paper kind of guy, by the way. Coming in at number 9 is Deadly Blessing. Still haven't seen this movie. I still have
Oh,
not
really?
seen this one. Yeah. But you and Nate both had it ranked on the list. Jared did not, and I did not. So tell us about why is this one deserves to be in the top 10.
Honestly, I think it. I think it's one of Wes Craven's most underrated films. It's one that no one really talks about. It's to me, it's kind of a shame that more people talk about Deadly Friend more than Deadly Blessing.
Well, to be fair, which one has the
Well,
the basketball kill?
I know. But yeah, I think Deadly Blessing it was really good. I first saw it. It was a few years ago. I was working on completing my Wes Craven collection, and I got it because I never heard of it before. and Scream Factory put out a Blu-ray.
Yeah.
I got that, and I checked it
I
out.
actually own that, believe it or not.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because this is the one where it's got Jeff East in it, and this is the second Wes Craven movie that he's in where his character is trying to bang his cousin. So this is where
yeah.
with cousin fucker for him.
That's right. That's where Cousin Fucker came from. We did a whole Wes Craven episode.
Yeah,
and I had that on here forever. Remember, I need to bring that back.
Yeah, because he was because he was in this, and then he was also in Wes Craven's made-for-TV movie Summer of Fear with Linda Blair.
By the by, if anybody's wondering, our friend Nathan Thomas Milner, if you can see that shit, see it? He did a lot of the artwork on the early Scream Factories. The guy who's on the show on Sundays with us, Nathan, the guy who talks the most. Just saying. Yeah, I need to see Deadly Blood because Nate, like, when did we do that? That was like 2021 when we did that Wes Craven show. It was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago, yeah.
Yeah, because I ordered that probably. I know I ordered that and Deadly Friend, I think, in 2022. Because I got that, the Entity, and which the Entity is going to be on next week's list. Probably absolute must in my opinion, is an Entity. But I do need to get this. I feel like Deadly Blessing may jump over the next one and maybe even the next one, which I don't think you've seen the next two. I don't know if you remember what they are either.
I don't actually. There was one on the list that I haven't seen. I thought there was like one
only
or two.
One? Well, but you definitely suggest anyone who hasn't seen it, check out Deadly Blessing, including me. So
it's one of Wes Craven's most underrated films. It's it's not like as good as Elm Street or Scream or anything like that, but I think it's a really solid horror film, and I liked it a lot.
Yeah, so the next one, Nate really loves. I like it quite a bit. I think it might have been on Jared's list too. Dark Knight of the Scarecrow. It's a TV movie, oddly enough. No, just me and Nate. And it's a kind of a revenge slasher film where you get this mentally challenged dude who is killed, and basically a scarecrow comes back to life and gets revenge. That's not exactly what happens, but pretty close. It's actually a fun movie. It's really good for a TV movie. And it's funny because I think that the 80s, early 80s, late 70s had some really decent TV movies. There's one that Nate had on his list for 82 that is a TV movie. I can't remember what it's called offhand, but yeah, it seems like there's some decent ones. This is one I'd like to get on Blu-ray. I don't own because I'd like to watch it again. I believe it's streaming though. I think it might be on Shudder. But Dark Knight Scarecrow is a fun. I don't want to give too much away, but it's a fun kind of revenge movie. Yeah, you haven't seen this one, right?
No, I have not. It was on my list to watch, but
yeah, we'll revisit this eventually. You know, the top 10 of the 80s at some point, because I bet you once the dust settles and we've seen X amount of movies, you know, this list will probably change. And I am going to have trouble with this next one, like explaining it, because it's fucking crazy. It's called Possession. It had like, so I think this was on Joe Bob a couple years ago, and somebody told me it was an absolute must to watch. I was like, oh, it's one of the best possession films. It has Sam Neill in it. And, you know, I love Sam Neill as well as you do. Well, no, actually, I don't know. Do you love Sam Neill?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Nothing. I so yeah, I mean, it's kind of about a woman who I don't know if she thinks she's possessed. It's been a while since I've seen it, but she has this fucking complete mental breakdown in this like tunnel here or I think this is a subway tunnel or something like that. And it's one of the most visceral scenes I've ever seen in a horror movie. And it's this her performance is what does it. It's really just fucking crazy. This movie is insane. Isabel Adjani, I think is her name, is really great in it, and of course Sam Neill. It's such a weird and kind of maybe it's just me, maybe I'm sexually repressed, but it has a sexual like very thick sexual overtones. It's definitely a must to watch, but it's fucking weird. I will say that. And like when I made my list and I saw Nate or Jared put it on there, I was like, oh shit, I forgot about the Possession. That movie's weird. And I started thinking about it. I was like, yeah, I'm probably gonna put that in my top 10. Uh, Jared had it at number 4. I had it at 10, and Nate had it at 7. You didn't have it at all.
I remember like it was either Nate or Jared. One of them recommended that movie to me because I love Sam Neill as an actor, and they told me to check it out. But I don't remember who it was, and I just never got to it.
It's another one of those where you absolutely have to be doing nothing else but watching the movie.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if you miss a second of it, you're lost. But that subway hall, whatever scene it is really fucking crazy. Like I said, Isabel Ajani is man. I'm trying to think. She's in something else I've seen her in, and I'm like drawing a blank because I think she's French. Really, really crazy movie, man. I don't even know what to say about it because it's fucking batshit crazy for sure. Oh, you know what? She's in Nosferatu.
Oh, the Herzog.
The Herzog. Yeah, yep. She's in. I almost forgot about that. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, check that out. I think that might be on. It was on Shudder when I saw it. Okay, now we're getting to the cream of the crop for sure. And this might be a little bit disappointing because I think you had this at, let's see, number 2. I had it at 6. Nate didn't even have it listed.
That fucking traitor.
Yeah, The Howling. And honestly, if Nate would have had it, ranked, let me see here. Let's say even if he had it at number 8, it would have jumped a spot at least. So you can blame Nate.
Yep, yeah, definitely blaming Nate for this one.
But The Howling, this is a great werewolf movie with a fucking superb ending. One of the big 3 werewolf movies of the year. Of course, Wolfen, kind of a werewolf with shapeshifters, right? Or skinwalkers.
Yeah.
But this is definitely one of the 2 big ones. Take it away, Seth.
Yeah, The Howling is a fantastic fucking movie. It's loosely based on Gary Brandner's novel, which I also love, but it's a little different than this adaptation. But yeah, this has like great looking werewolves and werewolf designs from wow, I'm drawing a blank on his name. It's Rob Bottin, right? Great performance from Dee Wallace. Yeah, this movie's awesome. I watch it a lot. I know it's not for everyone. There's a lot of people who don't seem to like it for some reason, but I really enjoy this film a lot. Maybe it's because I'm a little biased. Who knows?
I mean, you are a giant werewolf nerd, so
that is true. That is true.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. This is a cool fucking movie. One of the things I like about this versus an American Werewolf in London and a lot of other ones, this is a bipedal. Is that how you say it?
Yep.
Werewolf, like a wolf man, but it's got the snout. I love the design of the werewolf in this movie.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite type of werewolf too.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I love some of the effects work they use with the what are they called? Where it makes the skin look pulsating.
Yep.
They're like airbags or something like that. And there's a name for it, but I can't think of what it's called. But man, the transformation scene is so good, and not as good as American Werewolf in London, but it's good. Yeah. And I like the idea that there's like a colony of werewolves. Mm-hmm. It's just a really cool idea of a movie. I know it's not quite the same as the book, but you've got some interesting characters, and plus the ending is superb, in my opinion. The Dee Wallace transformation and the little tear that rolls down her. What are you kids watching? News lady turned into a werewolf. I love that.
Yeah.
Such a great ending.
That was the biggest change from the book.
Was it?
Yeah.
So the porno shop was in there?
Huh?
The porno shop was in there? Okay.
No.
That was just for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I will say this. Like, what was it like last year, the year before? We did an episode on the Howland for Discourse, and I went into some details about the differences between the film and the book.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to know, but yeah, I'm a huge werewolf nerd, and it's one of my it's my number 2, man. My number 2 of the year of '81, and my number 2 werewolf film.
The Howling? I didn't realize that. I thought it was Werewolf Castle.
I know that's your favorite one. I know you're a secret fan of Werewolf Castle.
It's not number 50 on my 50 werewolf movies. I'm just saying. Just saying.
You know, I mean, that's okay. So I think you're almost at a point of like where I was at when I made the comment in our group chat a couple years ago. Well, hey, I kind of like Werewolf Castle because it wasn't like the worst werewolf film I've seen, especially at that time. Like I watched like a bunch of shitty ones right before it, and then when that one came up, I was like, yeah, you know, it's not too bad.
Seth watches shitty werewolf movies, so you don't have to.
Pretty much, yeah.
I don't know. It's still like 45 out of 50 for me, but whatever. I think The Howling, if I'm not mistaken, was I think 5 on my list, 4 or 5, because 1 was Silver Bullet, which is my favorite werewolf movie. 2 was An American Werewolf in London. 3 was The Wolfman from 2010. So it may have been 4.
I like that placement of Wolfman.
And that's true to me. That's not me like, oh, Seth's gonna love this, you know. Let me.
No. Yeah. Well, I mean, most people wouldn't.
Well, so like, not to get too deep into the Wolfman 2010, but I like that movie. It's not bad. I like that they changed the setting. I love the setting. It's got this great atmosphere about it. Great acting. You know, me and set design. I like the look of the werewolves. And sure, there's some CGI issues, but honestly, it doesn't take me out of the movie. And I'm not even talking about the extended director's cut or whatever. I like the regular cut was good. I mean, I walked out of the theater like, it's about time we see a good werewolf movie. It's been a while because I took my wife to see that on our Valentine's date that year.
Well, I think the theatrical cut is a fine film, but I prefer watching the unrated cut because it feels more of like a complete movie. Like there's some more context, I think, especially with the relationship between Lawrence and Sir John. But yeah, and another thing is, you know, to me, I always feel like it's a shame that when people talk about the effects of that movie, they always talk about the not so great CGI. It's not terrible CGI. It's not great. But no one really brings up Rick Baker's amazing makeup effects in that movie.
Yeah. Because they are. I like the way the wolves look. And one of my favorite things is what Benicio del Toro's character, Lawrence Talbot, goes through when he goes back to the city. They like drop him in some ice water. Like what the fuck, you know? It's like shock treatment. I think it's better than what people give it credit for. But again, we're not talking about that. I just wanted to throw that out there. So yeah, The Howling is number 6 for 1981. Unfortunately for Seth, he's probably gonna cry when this show's over. But man, I'm sorry. The top 5 were pretty stacked because one of a slasher legend. I believe this is better than the original at number 5, Friday the 13th Part 2. Now let's get into some deep conversation about this because we've never done that before.
I sense your sarcasm.
Right. Friday the 13th Part 2 is my number 3 in the franchise, with the final chapter being number 2 and Jason Lives being number 1. This movie gets better every time I see it, and I kind of dismissed it when I was younger because, honestly, I'm not going to lie, he didn't have his hockey mask. I didn't care.
Yeah.
But the more I see this is one of the better slashers from the 1981 cycle, and it's definitely one of the best 3 or 4 Friday the 13th movies.
it's my third favorite as well, behind Final Chapter and Jason Lives. I've always loved part two. I think, and then I've mentioned this before on the show. I think I think in terms of the horror, it's probably one of the scarier ones in the
Yeah.
series. Not saying that this film
It
scares
made
me,
Jenny
but
P. Just saying.
yeah, it's just there was something about this film that really that I really liked. Like, this is the film that, I kind of watched this franchise out of order, but
How
if I was
dare
to
you,
watch,
sir?
if I had watched them in order, the first one would have been the one to make me a fan. This one definitely, I thought was really. I think it's a better made film. I think Steve Miner is a better director than Sean Cunningham, and Ron Kurz is a better
Yeah.
writer for the on the slasher side, better than Victor Miller. I love Friday 13th Part Two.
Do you
The
do you
only thing
think?
I don't care for is the first 5-10 minutes when it
Yes.
deals with Alice.
They have to bring back the final girl, Alice. Yeah, I agree.
Like, I felt like
Um,
they didn't even need to bring her back. They could have just started where the film started. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was just a really
yeah,
useful scene. You just watch her like toss and turn on her bed, and then we see flashbacks to the first film.
and
And
didn't she say there was no script either? She just had to kind of ad lib everything.
I believe so. Yeah, but yeah, that's the only thing I don't like about it. But other than that, I think it's a very good slasher film, very good, effective horror film. And I gotta say, Ginny is one of my favorite final girls. So
How could she not be? She's great.
yeah,
Yeah, there's without a doubt this is one of the best Friday the 13th for sure. But I think it's interesting. Like, a question I have: if Tom Savini would have done this with the effects, do you think it would have been better, or do you think it even mattered?
I don't think it mattered because I don't look at Friday 13th Part Two or even three. I don't look at the effects of those films and think this could have been better with Savini. I think they were kind of like on par. Like, I think whoever they had do the effects, I don't know who did the effects, to be honest with you, but I thought the effects for 2 and 3 were perfectly fine.
Yeah, I agree. Although I actually, I think I like Jason's face sculpt better in 3 than 4 because it looks like a mask in 4. You know what I mean? Like, anyway, we don't have to get into that. Um,
Don't you fucking don't you trash talk my final chapter? God damn it!
so this one, Nate put it fourth on his list. Jared had it at 5. You had it at 6, and I had it at 5, which means it's going to end up at 5. So,
Yeah,
um, coming up at number 4, and did somebody say Fulci? This may be Lucio Fulci's masterpiece. Now, you just recently watched this, didn't you? The Beyond?
no. Oh, I saw the Beyond a few
No, you
years.
watched City of the Living Dead. That's what it was. Sorry.
Yeah, I saw the Beyond in like 2020 or 2021 because you recommended it, and I've slowly, since starting the horse, I've slowly been kind of uh, watching some Italian horror films.
Yeah.
Uh, and I was under the belief that this was the first one. Um, but yeah, I dig this one. I love the ending.
Yeah.
Absolutely love like
Bleak ass ending.
this scene right here is great, and I love how even in The Void they kind of like homaged it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like City of the Living Dead a little bit better than this one, but yeah, I think
I go back and forth.
yeah.
I go back and forth because this one, like you said, the ending's great, and I don't want to spoil anything. I just saw that Jackson hasn't seen it. Get on that, my friend. Get on it.
Yeah,
it's great.
definitely.
Absolutely banger of a score. But I kind of like this story is slightly better. You know, her getting the hotel and things going wrong, Plumber Joe. You know, the whole idea of the Book of Ibon, the mysterious blind girl. It's just a lot of cool stuff happens in this movie, and I love the prologue. You know, with Schweik. I love this movie. This is like, I think it was 2015. 20 it might have been right around when I started the Horror Syndicate, but that's when I like kind of dove face first into horror. I mean, Italian horror, and I'd seen City of the Living Dead. I've seen Suspiria. You know, a couple of them, maybe a handful, but this one popped up on Netflix of all places, and I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. And me and my wife watched it, and she looks at me and goes, "What in the fuck did we just watch?" I was like, "It was the best thing I've seen in a while." I don't know. I loved it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I can't recommend The Beyond enough. Jared and I both had it at number one for our 1981 list. While you had it at number five, Nate did not have it ranked at all. If
Fucking
Nate would have had
trash.
it at least number five, this would drop a spot to number three. So yeah, thanks, Nate. Nate ruined the
Fucking
whole
trash.
list. No, Nate did not ruin the list. Um, and then coming in at number, what are we, three?
Yep.
Three? Halloween 3. Oops, my bad. Halloween 2. Damn it. I'm getting ahead of myself. This is
Yep.
Halloween 2. I'm taking it down. Halloween 2. I know I'm not dumb.
Michael
It's
Myers wasn't in
Michael Myers
Halloween
is not in
3.
Halloween. Yeah. I actually did. I made two of these images, and I was like, oh, I made three. Oops. And so I went back and made it, and I uploaded the wrong one. Anyway, Halloween 2 takes place in a hospital. That's all you need to know. Coming in at number 2. So I love Halloween 2. Absolutely love it. I prefer it to the 2018 film. I prefer it to H2O. I prefer it to a lot of them. It's generally either number 2 on my list or number 3, and that's discounting 3. And the only reason I say that is because I love 3, but I don't like lumping it with all these for some reason. I also love Halloween 4 quite a bit. But there's something about this one. I love that it carries on from the night prior, or the same night. I love that it takes place in the hospital. I actually like that Laurie's barely in the movie, and you get to kind of see what else is going on around town with Loomis and the not what's his name, not Brackett, but
Oh, Deputy Hunt.
yeah. So there's a lot of other stuff going on. This I think between this and 4, and this is probably why I like him so much. You get a lot of Loomis, and I love Loomis. So yeah, and I don't mind Dick Warlock under the mask, even though he makes it look weird or whatever. But and I for years I thought it was just a different mask, but apparently Dick Warlock just has a fat face, as seen in Halloween 3 as a one of the men. What do they call them? The robots, whatever they are in Halloween 3. Anyway,
Yeah.
and I can't believe I uploaded the wrong image. What an idiot!
Fucking
I was
slacker.
in a rush. I had to come home and make dinner after work, and I was like, doing it. And I look at, and Helena goes, "Do you have a show tonight?" I was like, "No, it's Monday. It's Tuesday." Shit. Yesterday fucked me up in more ways than one. Um, but Halloween 2, Nate rated it as his number one movie from 1981. He loves it. Jared gave it a 6. You were at 4, and I had it 3. Yeah. What do you think of Halloween 2? We've never talked about it before.
I know we've never talked about it on this channel, or the whole Halloween franchise before.
New to us.
It's totally new to us. Halloween 2 is my clear and easy favorite Michael Myers sequel. I like it more than 4, and I love 4. Um,
I go back and forth.
it's tough because I mean, 4 is fucking fantastic too.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that one of the reasons is that I'm a sucker for sequels that kind of pick up where the original left off, kind of making it seem like it's like one big story, even though it wasn't intended to be that way. And then again, I mean, Dr. Loomis, he's my favorite character in this franchise, and he's one of my favorite horror protagonists of all time. I've said for a long time, I don't really care about Laurie Strode.
Yeah, me too.
For me, the Halloween films, I go back to 1, 2, 4, even 5, which is one of my least favorites, and 6 because I love Donald Pleasance as Sam Loomis, and Halloween 2 is to me I think it's a great sequel to Halloween. It's not made nearly as well as Carpenter's Halloween. Fair enough. But
Definitely
I
better than
also,
Halloween Resurrection, if you know what I mean.
oh god, same director too.
Same
Um,
director, yeah.
I do like the fact though that even though it's Rick Rosenthal instead of John Carpenter, you still have Dean Cundy doing the cinematography. So it kind of has that same like look and feel. So it does almost in a way kind of feel like a seamless second chapter.
It
Um,
definitely feels like an extension of Halloween, the original Halloween.
yeah, and here's another thing, and I know I brought it up last time we covered the Halloween franchise at one point, is that the first one is very small, contained film. You follow just a couple, you follow Laurie Strode and Linda and asshole Annie,
Linda.
and the big chunk of the third act is in the house, whatever, and then with part
Totally.
two, you get a bigger set in, more characters with the hospital, and then it escalates even further with four, which is more town wide. So I kind of like that evolution of the Halloween films as well.
Yeah,
But
they get a little bit bigger each time.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. And
and I dig the hospital setting. I
yeah,
never really understood the complaint about it because I remember a couple years ago I brought one of my daughters to the emergency room like middle of the night and it was practically empty.
yeah.
So
You expect a turn a corner. There's Michael Myers. Yeah, when Reynolds was born, he was, Elizabeth and him went to sleep, and I was hungry, and I'm like, I gotta find a vending machine, and I'm
yeah,
walking the halls, and like, as I look up, I see the lights passing, while I'm walking. I'm like, yeah, Michael Myers. Yeah, this is Halloween too.
you hear the Carpenter theme in your head.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, man, I may have played it actually on my phone, but anyway, yeah, I love Halloween too, and according to this, our number one slasher because there are no more slashers to speak of. Um, but we've come to number two on our top 10 of 1981, our year of our Lord. Um, I do want to mention that there's a couple movies that, like, Nate had a movie called Madman Mars on his list. I didn't care for it, and he was the only one who had actually listed it, so it didn't make the list. And there's another one he had. Oh God, what was it called? Road Games, which I had never heard of. Have you heard of that
Oh,
one?
yeah, that's with Jamie Lee Curtis and
Hmm.
Stacy Keach. Right?
Okay, yeah, and that was that. So that didn't make the list, unfortunately. And Jared had the Black Cat, which didn't make the list. And those are the only other ones that we didn't talk about. And we can't talk about them. I haven't seen I've seen Madman, but I didn't like it. So anyway, it's another slasher. So number two on our top 10 list from 1981. Seth, are you ready to die?
Evil
He's gonna
Dice Cinema.
cry. He's gonna cry in the car. It's an American Werewolf in London. That is the number two horror film for 1981. Seth, you only have one person to blame for this, and it's me and Jared and Nate. Nate
That's
had it
right.
at three. Jared had it at three. You had it at one. I had it at four.
Yep.
If one of us would have had it at one, it would be number one.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
know. You guys don't seem to love it like I do.
No, I
And
mean, no, that's not true exactly because Nate does love it. I know he does. I'm pretty sure Jared does. I like it a lot, but like the movies I had in front of it are Halloween 2, and I'm not gonna say the one of them because it's number one, and The Beyond. I absolutely adore The Beyond. The one thing that I like about this is the transformation scene above all else. But other than that, it's a fun movie. Go ahead. I know isn't it your number one of all time?
It's my favorite horror film of all time.
Yeah.
Before I mention anything about American Werewolf in London, I will say that the film that we have at number one rightfully belongs at number one.
I agree.
Okay, I just want to put. I'm not upset with American Werewolf coming in at number two. It's my number one, and I get that, but I think the one that we have at number one deserves that spot. So I'm just gonna throw that out there. Now, American Werewolf in London, again, my favorite horror film of all time. Um, and it's not just for me. It's not just the transformation. Like the transformation is amazing, but the makeup effects as a whole, like um, Jack, when Jack visits David in the hospital, amazing effects, like makeup effects on him, like they look great. And then every time we see Jack and he's more and more decomposed, it's great. Uh, I I know that like 2 years ago now, I think we did a show on this, and we I kind of really dived into everything I love about it. One thing I will repeat is that one of the things I love about this film is that I think John Landis did a fantastic job balancing the horror and the comedy side.
Oh,
With
absolutely.
he takes the horror very seriously, and the comedy that's in it comes from the characters and their personalities and the way they react to stuff and each other. Um, so I never really agreed with people referring to this as a horror comedy because I don't really think it's all that comedic. To be honest with you, it's got some funny moments. It's got some really fun moments. I mean, I love Griffin Dunn's
Well,
performance as Jack.
not to compare this to an MCU movie, but a lot of the MCU movies, do they call them action comedies? No, they're
No,
action movies.
no,
And you know,
they don't, and those have more comedy, I would say, than
right.
Werewolf in London. Um, I don't know. American Werewolf in London, I think it really works on the horror side. I think the some comedy that they have in there totally works because of the characters. Um,
Jack.
Jack is great. Griffin Dunn's performance
Griffin
is
Dunn is so good. Yeah.
Griffin Dunn is the MVP, at least as far as like cast. You know, obviously Rick Baker's MVP of this movie in general, but yeah, this is a fantastic movie. I get that the ending is a little abrupt, and
I
but
think it's perfect. I honestly do. I think the innings, it doesn't need to drag on. We don't need to see what happens after. I like the way it ends because, like, if you think about it,
it be,
the movie is told through the eyes of David.
it
You know,
begins and ends with David, right? It
yeah,
begins
and
with,
well, like even so, when he's a wolf throughout the whole movie, we don't see him. We see through his eyes.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? So like the movie has to end with him dying, basically.
yeah,
So it's perfect the way it is.
yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to step on your toes there.
No, no. I mean that's well said. That's because like I think when I first watched the movie, I was like, well, what the fuck? I wanted to know like the aftermath, like you know.
Well, we know the aftermath. It's an American Werewolf in Paris. No,
No, well, I just mean as far as like
I know.
you know, like Dr. Hirsch and
Yeah.
Nurse Alex, like, but the more I watched the movie over the years, I'm
So
just like, go on.
there's a rumor though that and correct me if I'm wrong, with what's her name, the nurse, is
Alex
it
Price.
Alex, right? Okay, so Nurse Alex is actually the Howling 3 is the official sequel, the marsupials, because that's supposed to be her having the baby, and it's David's baby coming out of her stomach and looking all bizarre. No, sorry, that's a bad joke.
I mean, you're partially onto something there. Originally for American Wolf in Paris, uh, Julie Delpy's character Seraphine was supposed to be uh, the daughter of Nurse Alex and David.
That would have been fine. I would have been fine with that. I don't. I mean, I don't particularly hate American Werewolf in Paris, but I liked her in the movie, and I think the movie could have been better, less comedy and less. The CG, of course, was bad, but American Werewolf in London is it's regardless of what I think as far as my favorite werewolf movie, and a lot of times with movies you get a sentimental attachment, and that's where Silver Bullet lies with me. That was the werewolf movie for me growing up, and that's why it's number one for me. But American Werewolf in London is the number one werewolf movie. Period. There's never going to be a better werewolf movie ever made than American Werewolf in London. Period.
You want to hear something killer? I don't know if I told you this before. I watched a interview that Rick Baker did with Joe Rogan, and he mentioned how he was trying to convince John Landis to do a bipedal werewolf instead of the quadrupedal.
That would have made it perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, man, because that's the one thing I don't like. I mean, the reveal is like, oh, cool, it's big wolf, black wolf, whatever. But yeah, man, that would have been so cool. I'm a big fan. Like, and I think that goes back to, honestly, I think it's just the, like, every time you think of a werewolf, you conjure up images of the Wolfman, or maybe the Wolfman from Monster Squad. You know what I mean? Like, so I always think of a werewolf on two legs, not a wolf man or werewolf. Well, I don't know, a wolf. It's a wolf. You know what I mean? Like, so, like, when I want to say a good werewolf movie, that's one of the things I liked about Blackout and Werewolves, to go back to the last two werewolf movies I saw. Well, the Wolfman, just saw that. But go back to those. I like that those were bipedal werewolves. They were werewolves, not men who turned into wolves, which I prefer that versus. And I think when it comes down to it, most people, if they say, "Hey, describe a werewolf for me," they're not gonna be like, "Oh, it turns into a fucking wolf," So, but I mean, nothing against this movie. That would be the only problem I'd have with this movie, because it's got a great soundtrack, great score. The cast is so much fun. You gotta love the opening of the movie on the moors and getting to the slaughtered lamb. And it's just so good, And I'm sorry that it's 4, but I do like the 3 that I have ahead of it a little bit better. I'm not a big werewolf guy, and you know that.
I mean, you don't have to apologize for where you place it.
By the way, this is not just pillow talk, but I am working on my werewolf list. I mean, a vampire list now. And
awesome.
Lord have mercy, I've seen a lot of werewolf or vampire movies. Whew, it's breathtaking how big this list is going to be. So it might take me a while, but so I started doing that werewolf one. I'm like, man, I should do vampires too. And I start looking at my list. And I'm like, oh my god, maybe I shouldn't. So that's gonna be tough, because I have a feeling Dracula is either going to be Dracula 1931's. Lugosi is probably going to be number 1. I love that movie, but it's like I love the horror of Dracula so fucking much.
Yeah,
it's going to be hard. It's going to be one of those two movies. I already know it. Because I can't think of anything that would beat them out. Although I do really absolutely love. I love Dracula. The Francis Ford Coppola, Bram Stoker's Dracula. So it's gonna be tough. Yeah, but anyway. So before we get to number 1.
Not a bad question, Bert.
What is your favorite non-horror film from 1981? Did you figure it out ahead of time? Because
I did not. I forgot all about your question.
Damn it, I told you I was going to do this. So anybody watching, drop in the comments. Let me know what your favorite non-horror film from 1981 is. And I will be doing this every week that we have one of these, that we do this list. So we got, 7 more to go? Because we got to do 82, 83, 84, 86, 87, 88, 89. Mine's likely Raiders of the Lost Ark. I mean, I love Indiana Jones movies, So you looking something up?
I'm looking right
out in 1981. I mean, you can't say, you can't say An American Werewolf in London because it's not. You can't be horror.
Yeah,
I mean,
if I'm looking for non-horror. Uh,
there's a Bond movie in there. I don't know. Stripes is really good. Arthur's pretty good. Did Superman 2 come out in 80 or 81?
I think that was 80.
Yeah, I thought so too. But like, I'm looking at the list. It says, oh no, it came out in 81, June 19th, 1981. It was released in
Okay.
Australia on the 4th of December in 1980, but it was released in North America in 1981.
This is hard because of that, but also Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes.
The Road Warrior. I'm a huge fan
Okay.
of Road
Oh
Warrior.
yeah.
Escape from New York.
Oh man,
John
that's
Carpenter.
a big one for you.
Escape
Yeah.
from New York. I'm sorry.
Is John Carpenter getting the win?
I may have to give the win to Carpenter just, out of principle.
Just because it's John Carpenter.
Yeah. Night Riders was really fun. Probably not one of my favorites, but it's fun. Fun Romero film.
There's some good movies from 1981. I mean, like I said, Raiders of the Lost Ark's great. You mentioned Road Warrior, Escape from New York. Of course, the horror movies we've been talking about. For Your Eyes Only isn't one of the best, but I like it.
For
As
Your
far
Eyes
as Bond films
For Your
go.
Eyes Only? Oh, I love that one.
Yeah, I do too. It's just I'm a Roger Moore guy, so Stripes is a fucking awesome movie in my opinion. I have a soft spot in my heart for the Excalibur movie. Do you remember that movie?
I don't remember that.
It's got Patrick Stewart. It's really weird. It's not great, but I like it. Time Bandits is another one that a lot of people like. Clash of the Titans, Porky's. There's a lot of stuff that came out in 1981. Cannonball Run, Heavy Metal, and of course your favorite, On Golden Pond. But yeah, so you're sticking with John Carpenter.
I'm probably gonna have to stick with Carpenter. Just on principle. Escape from New York. I think it's awesome. Anyway, Kurt Russell is great as Snake. It's just such a cool movie. But I mean, it's hard to deny like Raiders of the Lost Ark and the Road Warrior and For Your Eyes Only. That one has the most badass moment that Roger Moore has ever had in a Bond film. You know what I'm talking about?
Moment? No.
They were in like a car chase, whatever, and there was like this one guy, and he was like trapped in his car, like at the edge of a cliff, and Roger Moore just kicks the car, and so it just badass moment.
So the problem with the Spy Who Loves Me, For Your Eyes Only, and even Octopussy, I get the only thing that stands Octopussy apart from those, because they all kind of blend together. They all came out within a couple of years of each other. Is that Octopussy Roger Moore dresses like a fucking clown, but for some reason I have trouble remembering some of the parts.
So I love The Spy Who Loved Me. That's my favorite Roger Moore Bond film.
Probably mine is.
Yeah, I know. The Man with the Golden Gun.
Yep.
I feel like The Spy That Loved Me is sort of like the popular choice, but I love it.
It is, but I think it's the height. It probably is the best one, to be honest. But go ahead.
Yeah, well, I love the dynamic between Bond and Agent Triple X.
Yeah.
And I think the whole ending battle is really cool.
Well, I mean, I think from start to finish, it's a strong-ass movie, to be honest. I mean,
yeah,
it starts off pretty awesome. Triple X is so cool.
Yeah,
like there's a lot to that one. But I don't know. I like, and maybe because I love Christopher Lee is why Man with the Golden Gun, Scaramanga. He's a good character. And of course, I saw that in Live and Let Die first. So that's how it goes. How it is with me. But
one last thing on Bond, just what you mentioned it, and you got my fanboy juices flowing here. I think Octopussy is better than it's received.
I agree with you. I love Octopussy. I just think I hate that he dresses up like a goddamn clown at one point. I get why he does it, but it's like, God, come on, Roger Moore. Like when I started getting deep into Bond, so I've always liked Bond since I was probably about 13, 14 years old. I think when Skyfall came out, they started releasing them on the Blu-rays that I have. I was like, okay, I'm gonna get all of these because they're gonna look the same. They have the similar type cover. And so I started rewatching every time I got one, and I got the Octopussy, and my memory from Octopussy wasn't that great. And so I'm watching it, and I know that movie already has a not as bad as Moonraker reputation, but kind of not a great reputation. And for the record, fucking love Moonraker. I love it. So sue me. But I'm watching it, and the clown scene comes up. I'm like, oh, I forgot about that. But it made sense for what it was, and I love Octopussy. Maud Adams is great. I honestly like all of Roger Moore's movies. A lot of people even talk shit on A View to a Kill. I love it. Christopher Walken, Grace Jones, come on.
No, I was going to mention too is it's funny that Bond got brought up tonight because earlier today when I was at work for some random reason, no reason at all, the theme song for A View to a Kill just popped.
I love it, dude.
Yeah.
I love that song. Actually, my daughter, I have it in my rotation on my phone, so we listen to music in the car. It pops up every now and again. She knows the song. So not last year, because I was so depressed I didn't even do Bondsmas. I'm ashamed of myself. But in 2023, when I was doing Bondsmas, that I watched A View to a Kill, and that song comes up, and she goes, "That goes to this?" I'm like, "Yeah, it does. It's a Bond song. You didn't know that?" She's like, "No, you never told me." Yeah. And of course, she started singing along. I was very happy with that. Live and Let Die is one of my favorites. I love James Bond. I love Roger Moore. He's my favorite, and he's not many people's favorite. That's okay.
I love Roger Moore too. I mean, I honestly, I don't really have an issue with anyone who played Bond. I mean, even George Lazenby.
I think George Lazenby was okay.
Yeah.
He might be the weakest one overall, but he's got a good movie.
He wasn't an actor; he was a model. But I love Connery, love Moore, love Dalton, love
T-Dalt is the shit.
Timothy
Darkest Bond we got, man.
It's funny. He was like the edgy Bond before Daniel Craig, and people.
He's edgier than Craig. Come on.
Well, I know, but it's just funny that people didn't like it, like back in the day, like when, especially when License to Kill came out.
Yeah. Both of his. I wish we would have gotten more movies from him, but I think the writer's strike fucked something up. It's okay because we ended up getting Pierce Brosnan, who got 3 solid films before the last one.
We won't talk about the last one.
I mean, it's probably
my least favorite.
One of the I'm not sure if it's my least. It's been a while since I've ranked the Bond movies, so but it's usually down there at the bottom.
It's Die Another Day is number 25 on my list.
Yeah, I'm almost certain it's number 25 on mine too, but I gotta be honest, man. Spectre isn't very high on my list.
Yeah, no, same
here. I think it's which one is one of Connery's movies is really low on my list too.
Diamonds Are Forever.
That's the one. Yeah. So I mean, and honestly, as much as I talk about how much I like Live and Let Die, it's not that great. I like the villain, but it's not that great. It's goofy, it's kind of goofy. Where they did some of that in Man with the Golden Gun, but not too as much.
Yeah.
We could go on about Bond forever.
I know. Kind of makes a Bond film.
Yeah. I hope they make the right decisions making the next Bond. Coming in at number 1 on our 1981 list, finally, is Evil Dead. The Evil Dead. I'm trying to find the words to articulate why this belongs at number 1. First of all, I don't know that I've ever met somebody who doesn't like Evil Dead as far as horror goes. It's a great fucking movie. Sam Raimi didn't have much to work with, and he made an absolute gem of almost a masterpiece, in my opinion, in some ways. It's so good. And of course, we get to meet Bruce Campbell for the first time. So this is a movie that just people absolutely love, and I can't wait to see people's reactions tomorrow whenever I post this list on the Horror Syndicate's Facebook page.
I think most people would agree with this.
Yeah.
And again, like I talked about a little bit earlier, like this is the rightful number one on our list, in my opinion. It's got one for, a very micro budget film, independently made by a group of friends. It's fantastic. It's gruesome. It's balls to the wall. I'm not even really a big fan of demonic possession films and stuff like that so much, but I love the Evil Dead franchise. And Sam Raimi is just so creative with the camera. He's got his own distinct style, and the Evil Dead is, I think, one of the best horror films. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we've done. Have we done Evil Dead on this show? No, I'm sure we've done it on our other show.
So we started going through the franchise, right? We did this. We did Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn, and we did Army of Darkness. We were going to do Ash vs. Evil Dead, but then you took a long hiatus from the show, and then we just never went back to.
Oh my god, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
Not that I took a hiatus. I did. I needed it. I was having some.
Oh yeah. That's understandable. It's
anxiety
just.
issues.
Yeah, I wasn't even trying to give a shit for that. Just like it just happened. It happened in the middle of us covering the Evil Dead franchise.
No, I feel bad. No, I don't. I don't feel bad. I'm just joking. No, it's understandable. And Evil Dead, man, the franchise at large is just really great overall. I'm excited, like that the franchise is kind of back and not kicking ass yet, but it's dude. Evil Dead Rise was awesome. In my opinion, 2013 is my favorite Evil Dead movie. And I mean, it's just a strong franchise overall. It's like Nate says, it's a movie. I think we all have said it. It's a franchise that does not have a weak entry. If there is a weak one, it's Army of Darkness, but that's neither here nor there. So,
yeah.
So that's our list for the top 10 of 1981, and we'll go back through that. Just don't forget, next week we will be doing 1982. You got movies like John Carpenter's The Thing, Creepshow, another Friday the 13th movie, Poltergeist, Halloween 3 this time for real. Basket Case? Is that going to make the list? Have you seen Basket Case, Seth?
I didn't, but I'll watch it before the show, or I'll say I will, and then I'll forget.
It did make my list, so it probably won't make the list. I've seen Nate's list. I have not seen Jared's list yet, so I seriously doubt Basket Case. It's fun though. You should definitely watch it. It's ridiculous. I unfortunately feel like there's an obvious number one here.
It's so fucking obvious.
I know. This might be the most well, 84 will be obvious too, but I think this might be the most obvious. And I'm wondering if we're gonna see the first unanimous number one ever in the history of the Horror Syndicate.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we all love Friday the 13th Part 3, so.
Spoiler alert, that's my number 10. So,
I know you don't like that one. Yeah, the obvious answer.
It's still Friday the 13th, though. You know, I do like Friday the 13th quite a bit. It's just not it's like my number 10 of Friday the 13th, the 12 Friday the 13th movies. I prefer Jason Takes Manhattan. Jesus I prefer getting colonic while I'm awake. Anyway, yeah. So let's recap the list, and please don't mind my typing error for our list of the top 10 from 1981. You've got Scanners, You've got Deadly Blessing, Dark Knight of the Scarecrow, Possession, The Howling, pretty okay werewolf movie. Friday the 13th Part 2, The Beyond, Lucio Fulci's great film. Halloween 2, not 3, sorry. My fault. I know the difference. An American Werewolf in London, and number 1 is The Evil Dead. The Evil Dead. And next week we are doing 1982 for all you horror fans out there. It'll be fun. Halloween 3, I'm curious to see where that places, because I've got Poltergeist high on my list. John Carpenter's The Thing is high up on the list. Yeah, it's gonna be a fun list to do. I'll be waiting on you and Jared's, and then we'll see how it goes. Oh, I didn't upload the video for 1980. I have 1985 still, but not 1980. At least, hey, Howling's getting representation in our lists. Got to be happy about that.
It is, yes.
Yeah, and I'll be posting a video on the Horror Syndicate's Facebook page, the same thing, or a list for 1981 as I did with 1980 and 1985. I meant to upload the 1980 version on here. So far, our number ones are Return of the Living Dead, The Shining, and The Evil Dead. Ooh, which one's number 1 of those 3?
What was it? The Evil Dead, The Shining, and what was the other one?
Return of the Living Dead.
Return of the Living. Wow.
Yeah, wow's right.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna pass on the answer on that one.
How angry do you think people would be when they find out that A Nightmare on Elm Street 4 Dream Master is probably going to be our top 5 of 1988?
They'll probably be angry, but they'll have to get over it.
Yep.
I mean, it seems like anytime like so back when I had social media, like it seemed like anytime like it was brought up like on the Facebook page that it was like a favorite because of me and you over part 3. Yeah, it seemed to upset some people, but I don't care. I love Elm Street 4, The Dream Master, unapologetically. It's like one of my go-to horror films. It makes me feel good. It's a feel-good horror film.
Yeah, I mean, there really isn't anything that I can say negative about it. I know people this is when we got jokey Freddy, blah blah blah. Eat shit, okay? He was jokey in
It's part 3.
Part 3. You just think that one's better because everybody else thinks it's better, and everybody's telling you that it's the best one or something. It is, and don't get me wrong, Dream Warriors is very good, but man, I don't know. Part 3, I really like. First of all, we get Alice Johnson. I love Alice, and I will admit where the flaws are. Like Rick's death scene could have been better. Better. But man, Rennie Harlan directed his ass off with that movie.
Oh,
I think this is peak Robert Englund as Freddy. So, sue me. I don't give a shit.
Oh, I don't care either, man.
Yeah. The good thing is we don't have to put it up against any of the other Elm Street movies because that's where the problem really lies. 3 is so much better than 4. Blah. Yeah, who cares? It's our list.
The thing is, though, I mean, we've brought this up many times, is that you, me, Nate, we all love the first 4 Elm Street films. It's just saying that, you and I like 4 more than 3. That's not saying anything negative about 3, really.
No.
It's a strong fucking, like, the start of that franchise was strong. Like, if that series had continued to be as strong, I'd probably prefer Elm Street over Halloween.
Yeah, and I mean, again, this nostalgia thing, this feeling I get when I watch the Elm Street movies. Elm Street is why I love horror.
Mhm.
Plain and simple. Elm Street is what got me watching horror, and I love the second movie. Freddy's Revenge it's treated so poorly, and I don't know why. It's honestly one of the scarier entries into the film, the series. And I think that it's got, I mean, other than the ending, like you say, but I think it's got a strong story overall. I like Jesse's character. It really diverts from what everything I know. Of course, they didn't know going in what the franchise was, but it does. When you know what the franchise is and you watch the it diverts from everything else because pretty much everything else is a linear path through Nancy to Kristen to Alice. Where two, and that may be the problem for some people is that when you get to two, it's somebody else, and they just based it in that house because I think they were going to do everything around that house. But anyway, 1428, yo. I love Elm Street so much. And I'm going to warn everybody: when you get to 1984, Elm Street will be number one. If it doesn't, I will shut down the horror syndicate forever. That's an empty promise. But we hear a lot of empty promises. So I think this was a good list. I'm enjoying this. I'm debating on how to approach doing a top 50 list of the 1980s. Like, if there's a way to do it without having them, hey, Jared, do your top 50 now of the 1980s, because that might make his brain explode. Nate's on here. Nate can do a top 50 of 1980s right now.
He's already done.
I know. He's got his number one right now. It's number one of the 1980s. I agree. I mean, there can be an argument that the Thing is right up there with it, but if gun to my head right now, Elm Street's number one, The Thing's number two. But I also recognize, I think John Carpenter's The Thing is one of the greatest horror films ever made. Period. It is. It may be the best one ever made. I love Elm Street. Get out of here, Nate. Well, I mean, considering how many damn movies came out in the 1980s, I mean,
he's not wrong.
No, he's not. I mean, we could probably do 100 easily.
Yeah.
The Shining is his only competition, really. I put The Shining at 3, maybe. I love The Shining too. That was our number one for 1980. Nate, if you missed it, well, you saw. I sent the message to you guys. Number one was Friday the 13th. But no, I'm just joking. Just joking. It's not. Nate, what's your favorite film of 1981? Not horror film. No horror films. Mine was Raiders of the Lost Ark. Seth said multiple things.
Well, I think Nate's is going to be Raiders.
I think so
It's going to be Raiders or it's going to be the Road Warrior. I'm not looking at
it'll be Raiders. It's Raiders for sure. I bet you 100%. Yeah. I don't think it's Road Warrior. I think I can see where you're coming from, but
oh wait, actually no, because actually I forgot. Nate actually doesn't care for the Road Warrior as much. That's his least favorite Mad Max.
Really?
Yeah.
The Road Warrior is the one that really made it a franchise.
I'm going off memory, but I'm pretty sure Nate has said that the Road Warrior was his least favorite. Correct me if I'm wrong, Nate.
Well, Nate might actually be on the same page with me. I actually like Thunderdome quite a bit. So
that's my least favorite.
That's most people's least favorite.
Yeah.
I'm edgy, Seth. Come on.
It's a movie. It just feels like two separate movies mashed together.
Yeah, but again, man, it's something about, and this is the thing about horror, and it's not a horror movie, but those movies from the mid '80s, those are the movies I grew up with, and I saw Thunderdome a lot growing up. So, and that damn Tina Turner song was everywhere when that movie came. We don't need to get demonetized. So, but yeah. I
think Beyond Thunderdome is fun. It's a fun movie.
It's
a watchable movie. It's just out of all the Mad Max films, I prefer 1, 2, and Fury Road over Beyond Thunderdome.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how I put Furiosa in there, but
the ones I've seen, I've like I it's been 10 years now. I still haven't rewatched Fury Road. Maybe one day. Who knows? I mean, I got around to watching a certain Precinct movie.
yeah, it only took 84 years.
Well, it's funny. Nate mentioned another movie that he's mentioned a lot that I should watch, Drive, the other night, and I'm like, I just sat there, I'm like, God damn, I still haven't watched that.
It's a good movie.
Can't help it. I can't help it. I didn't see the drive-in, but yeah, it was the first one I saw too. And like I said, I do think there's something about seeing like the first one of a franchise. Like that's what got you into it, and that's what made it stick. That's why I love Freddy's Revenge so much. I think because that was the first one I saw. But like even so, like that. Although with Star Wars, that's not true because I saw Empire before I saw the first Star Wars. And I prefer, yeah. Well, so Empire came out in 1980, 4 days before I was born, and Star Wars was already out. And by the time Return of the Jedi came out, we were starting to see it on video. And so my mom would constantly rent Star Wars for me because I loved it because she could never get Empire. This is for her words, and that's why she says I love Star Wars over Empire because I got to see it more often. And then there was a period where she was dubbing tapes, and she dubbed Empire and Return of the Jedi, but never got to do Star Wars. So all I saw was Empire and Jedi. And there was like a good 5 or 6 year period where I did not see Star Wars. I was like up till I was 10 maybe. And then I remember, this is a little bit too much information, but we had to go to a battered woman's shelter for my mom, for my stepdad, because my stepdad beat her. But they had Star Wars, and that was the first time I had seen it in so many years. And I watched it probably the whole time we were there, so. But yeah, I think there is something about something to be said about it, where you see the first of a series that's what got you hooked. That's why you keep coming back to that one. And same thing with Dream Master is the first one I saw in the theater. Oh no, I'm sorry, I take that back. Dream Warriors was the first one I saw in the theater, but Dream Master was the first one I was amped about. I saw the poster or cardboard cutout or something like that, and I started coming up. This was the first movie I started having theories and thinking about what could happen in that movie based on the commercials I saw, So a lot of good memories there. That first bite is hard. Yep, that's true. 100%. Yeah, you did. You're much older than us.
Old man.
Especially Keith, if he were still here. He's still alive.
Jesus, that's pretty morbid.
Not on the show. You know what's weird? I was doing some math the other day when Jackson was on the show, and I was like, "Oh, he's 22." I'm like, "Oh, just like that's how old Keith was when he started with the Horror Syndicate." That dude is going to be 28 this year. 29. Can you fucking believe that kid's almost 30?
Still a kid, still a baby.
What happened to this world? Everybody's getting so old.
They grow so fast.
I miss Keith. He was a good kid. He still is. He's still alive. Anyway. All right. Yeah, you ready to wrap this up?
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to say? Let's tomorrow night. I'm probably going to be there to talk about the 2025 Wolfman movie. I don't want to say anything about it today. So, but we both saw it this weekend. I got to tell you, I had an agonizing time making the decision. The show was at 11:30 on Saturday. I was planning on going to, and I woke up and I'm sitting there thinking, do I want to go see that today? I don't know if I want to go see it. And I kept going back and forth, and I was talking to you a little bit and talking to Nate and Jared in the chat, and I'm like, and I think I dissuaded Nate from going to see it because I was being so negative about it. I read your article, and then I read a lot of the comments on our Facebook page. I'm like, oh God, do I want to go see it? I'm glad I went to see it because I got that first 2025 out of the way, and at least I saw it. I really think that it was just too dark. Was one of my biggest problems. It was so fucking dark in the theater because I saw the trailer the other day here, and I'm like, oh my god, I can see things. You know.
So like, I mean, I wrote a fairly positive review for it.
Yeah, but I think in my brain I was expecting you to absolutely love it. You know what I mean?
It's a film I have issues with, so like
It's
I'm
not as
gonna,
good as Werewolf Castle, but
huh?
it's serviceable.
So yeah, Werewolf Castle at least had good looking werewolves
Did it?
in comparison to Wolfman 2025. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Wolfman 2025 is one that I have issues with, so I'm gonna bring up a lot of stuff tomorrow. The pros and cons. I think some response like I haven't like watched a lot of stuff like on YouTube of reviews and stuff like that, but I
Yeah.
have read some comments here and there in reply to certain people's reviews of it. And I think people are sort of over exaggerating it a little bit of how bad it is. Because I think it's, at least on a technical level, it's well made. It's just, I would call it a disappointing film. But I'll get into more of that tomorrow. I'm also going to be. I was hoping to have my newest article finished ahead of time, but I still got some work to do on it, unfortunately. But I am going to do, after I talk about Wolfman 2025, I am going to do my ranking uh, live. So,
Live?
yeah. I'll
Oh,
do it. I'll do it on the show. Like I'm still gonna publish the article of that ranking of the Universal Wolfman films, but I'm gonna go through that list after I talk about the Wolfman tomorrow night.
so are you doing it tomorrow?
Tomorrow's Werewolf Wednesday. Yeah.
Well, no, I mean the list.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I'm gonna have. I don't know if my article is gonna be complete by the time that I jump on. It just depends on if I get enough time to work on it in between getting out of work and then doing the show. I'm almost done with it, but I still got some work to do with it. So it'll be this week. It'll definitely be this week that it'll be up on the horrorsyndicate.com.
Yeah, that we'll look forward to that for sure. Um, I guess since I watched all of those, I could probably rank them too if I wanted to. All right, man. Fun show again tonight. We'll be back with 1980 Atua. Bam. Next Tuesday night. I'm sure we're going to have a show on Wednesday or Sunday for the Horror Syndicate Discourse. Not sure exactly what just yet. Seth probably won't be joining us as the Buffalo Bills are playing. Hope she's okay. Sound like my daughter fell upstairs. The Kansas City Refs. So the Bills versus the Refs.
I'm either gonna be really happy or really upset. So
I hope you're really happy because I think I keep seeing these things on Facebook where it's a map of the country and it has like a little Chiefs logo by the Kansas City area, and the rest of the map is blue with a Buffalo Bills logo because it sounds like everybody's sick and fucking tired of the Kansas City Chiefs. So
yeah, I mean, I just want Josh Allen to go to the Super Bowl. I want him to win it. I want him to win MVP, which he probably won't. He'll probably go to Lamar, but yeah.
No, we'll see. We'll see. If you, huh?
I got high hopes, like I do every season with the Buffalo Bills.
Again,
back to Doug Flutie.
Again, oh god. Again, it could be worse. You could be a Raiders fan, like me. So, yeah.
Oh, you could be a Browns fan.
Well, the thing is, I'm a Raiders fan. Do you know who the Raiders' #1 rival is of all time?
Kansas City Chiefs.
Yes. So watching the Chiefs go through this period of winning is
Yeah.
it's killing it's makes me want to give up on the NFL altogether. So plus I really am starting to think the NFL cheats. So it's becoming more and more evident. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Tomorrow night, the Wolfman. Nope, just Wolfman.
Just
With more than likely me and Seth. If I don't show up, it's because I'm going out to dinner with my buddy. So don't hold it against me. Otherwise, we will see you next Tuesday with another episode in 1982 coming up. Have a great night. Seth, have a great night.
You too.
All right.
Evil dies tonight.
Bye. What?
I said evil dies.